All right, so now we're going to get into producing the body of the snake. And in order to do that, we're first going to have to go over here and import this pen. And the reason why we're importing this is because we want to use some functionality called stamping. And essentially what stamping does is that it stamps your costume onto the page. And we're going to be using this in order to show the body of the snake. So follow me into the snake head. Remember how we produced a functionality for the movement, and how we have this set up where we are waiting 0.1 seconds and we're moving the head of the snake. What we want to do is we want to also show the body of the snake forming behind it, right? So the beginning of the game, we're going to start with that one square in the middle. It's going to go towards the right, and we're going to reveal the entire length of the snake, which is at the time 2 to start with. Remember, we set it to 2 to start with, which means we have a total length of 3, right? The snake head and 2 snake body costumes all put together. And we're going to be revealing that. And as we go throughout the game, we're going to extend that by eating snake food. Now, the way we want to accomplish this is by anytime we exceed the length, we're going to add one to the front and then remove one from the bottom, right? So don't worry about this for now. We're going to add the remove function later. We're just going to focus on producing the new one at the top for now, all right? So how do we go about doing this? We first need to make sure that we have some sort of a broadcast, right? For every, because remember, every time we move, we are producing something new. And we need to make sure that we're producing the body accordingly. So every time we move, we're going to first set up a broadcast so we can let other costumes like the snake body know that this has happened and we are actually producing something new. So we're going to set up a broadcast, and we're going to broadcast show body. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go also and make sure that we save this information, that we're saving the information about the new place of stamping this new costume inside the list, because remember, the list is where we keep track of where every single part of the snake body is. So we're going to go over here to the list, and we're going to say add the position, the X position to snake body X, and also add the Y position to snake body Y. All right, so now that we have broadcasted this, we're going to go over on the body and talk about what we're going to do when we receive that broadcast. So first things first though, we got to make sure that at the beginning of the game, we remove anything that was left there from the previous time we ran the game. So first, we just start with an easy erase all when the flag is clicked, just to make sure that every time we run the game, we have a clear page. And then we have to talk about the broadcast. So when I receive the broadcast show body, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the list and see what was just added. Because remember, we added it to the list over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, what was the last thing that was added to the list? And I'm going to go to that exact same position and perform a task. So we're going to go to X and Y, and we're going to get that X and Y from the last element in the list. So we're going to go to item of snake body X and item of snake body Y. Right? Now we want this to be the last item. So in order to get the last item, we need to put the length of the snake body X and the snake body Y instead of the number, right? So think of it this way. If you have a list of 3 numbers and you want the third one, you want the last one, well, the length of the list is also 3. So you can just use that length over here instead of the number in order to get the last element of that list. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we're saying the length of the snake body X for body X and the length of snake body Y of snake body Y. This essentially gives us the last information that was saved inside the list. And what we do is that we just go there and we just stamp. Right? What do we stamp? We stamp this costume on top of it. All right. And now we can just run this and see how it looks, just to get a good. But before we do that, actually, let me also put another thing over here where we want to make sure that anytime the game ends, and we're actually going to put a broadcast for this later on, but anytime the game ends, we also want to make sure that we delete everything as well. So let's put in this broadcast as well. When game ended, just erase. So I obviously haven't set this up, but later on when we do set it up, it's just good to have it here so that we just erase everything. All right, so let's just run this and see how it looks. So do you see that? It's essentially just printing and printing and printing, right? We're not removing quite yet because we're gonna add that later on. But for now, this is the effect we want to achieve. Now, if I change my direction, it also just keeps stamping, because what it's doing, for those of you who are confused, is anytime we move ahead, we just put a stamp right before that spot. So think of it this way. Every time we move, we first broadcast show body, which results in us going to the last item on the list and printing right there. And then we add a new item, which is the new position that we're at. And so the next time we move from there, we can stamp the normal body, and the snake head is already moving on its own. As we saw, we ran it at the end of the last video, and we saw that it was moving. So the movement of the snake head is on its own. The movement of the snake body is essentially us putting a replacement for where the snake head used to be with this new color. All right, and let's run it one more time. You just see that's how it's doing it. Hopefully this is making sense to you. That's exactly the effect that we're achieving, is that we're just moving it, stamping right there. Then we move it, stamp it right there, move it, stamp it right there. All right. Hopefully this makes sense. And this is pretty much how we want to achieve this effect. Now, in the next video, we're going to have a different effect that cleans up afterwards. Right? So for example, right now we're just extending the snake forever, and we don't want to do that. What we want to do, ideally, is that, let's say if the length is supposed to be 3 squares, once we move to a 4th square, we want to remove the last square that was there, right? Which will give us the illusion that those 3 squares are just moving together, all right? So we're going to do that in the next video, but for now, just make sure that you are able to create this effect with your program where it is at so far. So just double check that, and I will see you in the next video.